Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. Time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters, writers, editors, journalists, people who are putting stuff out so that you can know a little bit what they're thinking about when they put it out and get a little more background about the stuff they're writing. In our second segment, we're going to talk to an artist who was displayed at Times Square on Valentine's Day with a very interesting project. We're going to show you that in a moment. But right now, let's get started with Daniel Parra, who is the Spanish language editor and reporter for City Limits. Daniel, nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Daniel has been writing, and it's just so important for us to fully understand what's going on with migrants in New York City. The most recent news that he's been writing about: 1,600 families with children have seen their stays in shelters expire. Another 7,200 are waiting for their deadlines to expire. Daniel, what happens to these people? These are human beings, and where we in the freezing cold in New York, we're throwing them out in the streets.
Yes,
In a word,
that's
yes.
that's basically what happened. These are families, so this only affects families. And actually, if you want to provide more update numbers, the controller last week provided some, so I can give it to you right now. So basically, as of February 4th, a total of 7,167 families with children in emergency shelters around the city have been given the 60-day notice. And of those, this
So
includes,
these people have been told that their shelter is expiring. That's
yes, yes,
and
yes,
then
yes.
what? So the question is, what happens to those people after this shelter expires? They just become homeless vagrants on the street.
No,
Migrants
so
on the-
basically they can reapply. They should go to the Roosevelt Hotel or Arrival Center. It is called both. And they can reapply. But the thing here is that usually the 60-day notice letter that they are given doesn't
Mhm.
say much about the how to reapply, and doesn't break down like go this and then yeah.
I, I think and we're all sympathetic with the city of New York for what's been done to us in a way, because these are migrants that, for political reasons are being sent to New York. In your mind, as you cover it, do you have an answer here? Is the only answer more funding, which of course the mayor has been begging from the White House and from the governor? Is that what the answer is? Is there another way to handle this? I think we're all just would love to solve this, at least on the local level. On the national level, it's something else.
Yes, it's complicated. I will say a little, well, obviously more funding, but at the same time, uh, the city has to change how it responds to this situation. I recently, or actually yesterday, read an article from the Atlantic, asking basically the big question of like, if this like a migrant crisis, because and they were talking about how the U.S. basically welcome asylees from 30,000 of them,
Wow.
and anybody like we didn't hear about them, and it was all made through like a government program. Many cities participated,
So
but
you're
it was
saying
super
that,
well
right?
organized.
So that is well.
Everybody, and the thing, one more thing that I would like to add here
Mhm.
is that the key thing or the key component here is that they were allowed work permits kind of immediately. So that makes a change.
Oh, and that's a big thing because
Yeah.
then they have a chance. So this is something else that you've wrote about, is that there are jobs open to immigrants. listen, we know that there are many organizations, people looking for workers, and many of these are skilled workers, whether they're carpenters, whether they're cooks, or they're drivers, whatever it is. There are jobs for them. So this is a state thing that the state has to give them permits, or it has to come out of the federal government.
It has to come from the federal government. They
So
usually apply for employment authorization, which is a card that says you can work from a specific date to a specific date.
So in the migrant tents, you also wrote about illness and aging posing challenges because people are older, and then of course the work permit thing may not work, and certainly if they're ill, they've got to be taken care of, and if they're in a tent, that is not the prime, that's not the prime place that we really want them to live. Is the tent situation, at least on a temporary basis, working to some degree, even with these problems? In other words, we don't have housing for them, but is it working? I mean, is that your estimation of this?
What do you mean by working?
In
Because
other words, is it giving them an opportunity to live and to eat and find some sense of
yes,
stability?
then
Does
yes.
that's
But
comforting
it's
to know.
yeah, and the city has put in place some ways to deal with people or migrants who are ill. So depending on the illness, they will either place them at a different hotel where they can isolate for a specific amount of time, or if it is nothing serious, they can basically stay at a
Mhm.
whole at the shelter that
Yeah,
they are in.
and now listen, I'm not looking for you to solve this immense problem. I mean, we all would love to do that. One of the other problems with the previous dialogue about being told that your stay in shelters is expiring is we do have thousands of children, in migrant children, in schools, and so if you take them out of the shelter where they're in, and they may be enrolled in school and even in one borough, then all of a sudden the next location um, is in another borough. If the city is moving them from one place to another place, even with a little bit of a delay, is that the best? In other words, again, I'm completely sympathetic to the mayor in the city of New York. I understand, but maybe we'd be better off with a different system, which is what you suggested a moment ago.
Yes. Basically, if migrants could have the tools to work, that'll be like awesome for
The
many.
work thing for
The
you
work,
is the big thing.
yes, the work
In
permit.
terms of your covering of the migrant crisis, do you get to talk to some of the families or some of the people? In other words, give us an idea of what's it like to try and cover it. I mean, I realize there's a lot of governmental information you get, but have you had firsthand interaction? Have you seen stuff with your own eyes?
Yes, basically, we try to like every single story that we cover, we try to put uh, somebody behind it. So yes, we either try to talk to families if we're talking about the 60-day eviction
Mhm.
notices or letters,
And what do they
and
tell you? What do you hear from them specifically?
so for the 60-day, we basically heard that two things. That in this case, the family that I talked to told me that when they asked at the shelter that they would like to reapply or maybe get a ticket to Philadelphia, it will take the shelter like 10 days to get that. So they
Mhm.
decided to leave and buy their ticket by their own. Basically, they paid for it. This was a
Wow.
family who was like working before, like a couple of weeks before the 60-day notice hit.
Mhm.
So they kind of had some savings for that trip.
Right, right. And it must be very difficult. It's like you say to me, well, you got to wait 10 days. And okay, so I'll wait 10 days. But 10 days when you don't have a place to live, when you don't have children, when you're in a foreign country, when you've just been located somewhere, that 10 days is a very, especially when it's 28 degrees outside, that's a very, very long time. So we have, a significant amount of homeless people in the city. This doesn't help. Do they feel like, in terms of their interaction with other New Yorkers, do they feel like people are treating them well, or at least trying their best to, at least accept them, or do they still feel like they're being oppressed? Maybe not as bad as from their countries, but I'd be curious to how they view the way they've been received, aside from the structures that are out there.
I will say most of them are like super thankful of
They are
what.
thankful.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank every time that they have a place to live in, even though it's not like the ideal place, but they have a place to go at night and have some sleep. They're super thankful that they can eat something. Sometimes it's not the best food, and we've seen a lot of reports about the food, but still there's something, and that's better than having
Than where they
nothing.
were. That's
Hmm.
that's very interesting to hear, because we know what many of them, if not all of them, went through to get here. And then when they get here, and then you read your work, for example, that says they have a limited stay, and then you start to wonder, what do they feel like? Like, we did all this? Is it better? But you're saying that they still feel like this is the place they want to be, right?
Oh yes, 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 yes. Sometimes they will complain about things like the food, or they don't feel that the 60 days notice is something like that will actually help families. They
Right.
will complain
But
about
the,
that
but
as well. But
what
in
you said,
general,
yeah, we're
having
almost at
having
it.
a
We're
place to
almost
live.
we're almost out of time, so I don't want to interrupt you. But the one thing that you and I mentioned before you went on the air is, was released just today or the other day, that the rate of influx of migrants is slowing. That's probably helpful to the whole process, and maybe give the mayor a better chance to get his arms around it. You know.
Yes,
So listen, Daniel Parra, the City Limits Spanish language editor and reporter. Thank you for your reporting, because
thank
and
you.
and even here to give us some insight as to what's going on is very, very useful. So we appreciate your time this evening.
No, thank you for having
Great,
me.
and say hello to Jean Marie and all our friends over there at City Limits.
Yes, she
Okay,
say
folks,
hello.
we will take a short break, and when we come back, you're going to love this. This is a segment about a Bronxite who is shown in Times Square. We'll be right back.